I'm happy with the way the Pacific Highway case study looks in the browser, but what about printing it out? Let's take a look in Print Preview in Google Chrome. And let's expand that and scroll down. Immediately we see a problem. The text is cut off on the right hand side. Scroll down a bit further. This footer, the background isn't displayed. That's not really a problem because by default browsers don't print out the background image or the background color of an element. That's to save ink. But one problem with the footer is that it's quite big and it contains a lot of links that aren't going to be of any use once printed out. But it would be very useful to print out the URLs of these external links, and you can do that using CSS generated content and a pseudo element, and I'll show you how to do that. So what we need to do is to rearrange the layout and get rid of unnecessary elements within the page. So let's go back into Dreamweaver. Older versions of Dreamweaver allowed you to view print styles in the document window. For some reason that's been removed from Dreamweaver CC, so we'll have to improvise. The first thing I'm going to do is to select highway.css in the Related Files toolbar and then File, Save As. And I'm going to save that in my Styles folder as print.css. So I've got an exact copy of my existing styles. I can close that page and also split view. Then in the CSS designer, select highway.css and remove that. It's only a temporary removal. Add CSS source, attach existing CSS file, browse, go to the styles folder, this time attach print.css and click OK. And the task is to go through this style sheet, removing unnecessary things and changing properties where necessary. There are quite a lot of changes to make, so I won't be explaining them all in detail. Basically what I'm going to be doing is removing widths and floats. Just come along for the ride and you'll see the result at the end. So the first thing is to find the wrapper. There it is. And let's see the set properties and get rid of the width by clicking the trash icon and also getting rid of the margin. Next, the intro. I'm going to get rid of the left and the right padding and also the background color. Next I need to look at the teaser articles. There's the teaser class. Get rid of the width and the float. Footer links are for the links in the footer. We don't need either of those values, but we do need the class. And I'm going to click the plus button and type display and set the value to none. Continue down. The main and sidebar aren't in this page, but they're in other pages. We need to get rid of the width and float for both of them. And by getting rid of the width and float, basically they will stretch right across the page. And let's go down a bit further. We don't need the teaser link, so we'll get rid of that value and set display to none. And I'm going to change the color of links to the same color as the text. So color be #202020. And then I can get rid of the other link properties by clicking the minus button up here. We don't need the navigation either, so we need to get rid of main nav UL, main nav A, that one, but not main nav itself. We get rid of the width and the margin and then set display to none. And what else have we got? There is the footer there. We get rid of the background color and the gradient. Now I want the last set of links in the footer to be displayed, so that requires a new selector which will be .footer links, and then the last of type pseudo class. So basically we're looking for the last footer links. And we can get rid of show set there. We need to go down in the layout section for display and set that to block. So the rest of the footer links will be display none. The last one will be display block. And then the next selector is also footer links with the last of type pseudo class, space A, then colon after. That's the after pseudo element. And it's easier to work directly in code view with that, so right click, go to code. And I'm going to add an extra line in here. And generated content is generated by the content property. So content, get that from code hints. And then the first code hint is attr, that's attribute. We need to replace that x by href. What this does is it extracts the value of the href attribute and it displays it. And you can mix this with ordinary text in quotes. So let's have open quote, space, parenthesis, close quote, and then at the end we'll have open quote, closing parenthesis. And we need the semicolon at the end. So what this does is it adds a pseudo element, the after pseudo element, after a link, and it generates this content, a space, an opening parenthesis, the value of the href attribute, in other words the URL of the link, and a closing parenthesis. It's a very powerful part of CSS. So those are all the changes I need to make to Print CSS. So let's save that page. And we can close split view. Then in the CSS designer, select print.css. We're going to temporarily remove it by clicking the minus button. Then we're going to add back the original CSS. So click that plus button, attach existing CSS file, browse for the highway.css, the original style sheet, click OK, and this time open conditional usage optional and conditions media screen. That's exactly what we want. This means that this style sheet will be used only by screens. So click OK, and then we need to add another style sheet, add CSS source, existing CSS file. This time we're going to select the print.css, click OK, open that conditional usage, conditions media, and then open this menu, select print, click OK, and then we need to just make sure that we save the file. So you can see in the CSS designer we've now got two style sheets attached, one for screen, one for print. And let's see what that looks like in our browser. So we need to close that and refresh the page. It's still looking exactly the same as it was in the screen version. Let's go for print preview and expand. And now everything looks a lot better. And at this section in the bottom, the URLs are printed out after each link. So to create the print style sheet, I made a copy of the existing style sheet, highway.css, saved it as print.css, went through it and made all the necessary changes, getting rid of unnecessary properties and selectors. I then reattached both style sheets using conditional usage, setting one to screen and the other one to print. And to display the URL of external links when printed out, I used the after pseudo element and the CSS content property to display the value of each link's href attribute.